The point about emasculation that really has been gripping me is women talking about emasculating in the context of talking to their lover or potential, lover, their paramour, and realizing or saying that I'm hearing or saying that I'm emasculating him or that women are emasculating. And women sometimes will say, well, what else do I have in my toolkit once things go wrong or go awry? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Save the Date. I'm one of your hosts, Heath.
What's good, everybody? This is Jamie.
Yeah. Head crack. So, guys, as always, check us out at Save the Date now, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Let's get into today's episode. And today's episode is actually, I would call quite apropos, but you wouldn't know apropos because you don't know the context. The context is that conversations about emasculation have been popping up independently in our private conversations with our friends and with each other.
Percolating
From different sources. And we just find it odd that it is, because this is a topic that has been raging throughout the internet the last 4 or 5 years, especially with the ascendancy of Kevin Samuels and Andrew Tate, among other, I would say, red pill pundits. And emasculation has been a very hot topic with them and with their audience and with the speakers they've had to come on, men and women. Men speaking about the problems and pain of emasculation, and women coming in talking about why it's problematic to emasculate your man, and then people who are looking at emasculation from the standpoint of, well, once you harm me,
all bets are off.
Yeah, once you harm me,
all is fair. Yeah.
That's the shotgun going back, guys. It's being cocked back. So we just thought it was appropriate because Jamie and I coming down the next couple of episodes are going to be addressing some of the red pill content, because I've had some eye-opening experiences around some of the claims from the red pill community, but Jamie and I want to treat it charitably. What do we mean by charitably? We don't want to just talk about their views in a vacuum. We want to make sure that we're representing their views the way some of the red pill content purveyors would represent their views. And because you always deal with this understanding that it's not just one community, but a set of communities that make up a community. So we don't just talk about Christianity, we can talk about Christianities, everything from Nestorianism to Protestantism to Catholic to any other kind of hybrid that's existed or exists to this day. Same thing with the red pill content. There are communities that make up the red pill content, and we want to do our best to represent those views charitably, to be honest, not to create straw man arguments to knock them down, but to treat them with the type of care that's required when you're having competent, honest, thoughtful, intellectual dialogue and reflection. With that said, we're going to get into the topic of emasculation today, and we'll address it again, but I felt pressed to do this because, as I said, people are bringing it up. And what I want to talk about emasculation, starting off with, is what is emasculation? What is emasculation? Because it's thrown around quite frequently, and there's different types of ways that it's described. I'll describe it one way, and then Jamie, I want you to give me your description, and then we could dialogue from there. To me, emasculation deals with language in a heteronormative context where a woman to a man is going out of her way to diminish, harm, or inflict pain on a man's psyche or emotional self. Again, going out of her way to inflict pain, harm, someone's psyche or emotional self. And what does that mean? There are times where there are men who are doing their best to serve their homes, serve their families, and be good men. And sometimes they're connected to a partner who, whether because of the ravages of their own past, the traumas of the past and the present, or some people just like to work out their issues on your body, as Dr. Regina Langley likes to say, and they will then use words, body language, and sometimes high-pressure scenarios to emasculate you. What do I mean by high-pressure scenarios? Meaning there are ways when you're living with somebody where they can, for example, not pay bills, and then the bill comes due and now it's overdue, and then now the light's about to be cut off, or the rent, you're about to get the eviction letter, and someone comes to you and says, oh, I told you I was paying this, but I wasn't paying this. And now what are you going to do? Not pay it? So now you're forced to rob Peter to pay Paul with your budget in order to fulfill that financial obligation. This happens with people with paying for school for their children. This happens in numerous scenarios where people will either delay or severely hinder payment of bills or financial obligations, or even in emotional scenarios where they put them into places where they have no choice. Well, my aunt needs, her foot surgery and someone needs to pay it. It might as well be us. she needs to move in for a little bit. And if you don't say, if you love me, you would just accept her coming in here and it's not going to be a conversation or an issue. There is manipulation, there's gaslighting, all of the popular language of the current day that we like to talk about and use when we talk about abusive or manipulative spouses or significant others. So that's my definition of emasculation. Jay, what about you?
I don't really have a definition, but I think it's important to talk about the intentionality of it. Like, I don't know if it is something that can be accidentally done. I think it is purposefully minimizing a man's masculinity in whatever way they choose to define that man. And I mean, I think that's the reason why I'm saying it this way is because some dudes don't look at emasculation as emasculation. That's something I think that has to be appropriated.
Considered.
So if they don't feel like it's emasculation, I can't tell them they're being emasculated. But I think we can call out the behavior, like you said, is when someone's going out of their way to intentionally minimize the man in question or the man in this scenario. And that scenario is masculinity.
Yes. And I love what you said. It may not be emasculating to him, but the behavior is still problematic. Because that's a very good point. Maybe emasculation is in the eye of the beholder or the receiver in that case. Well, if I don't feel emasculated, that's not emasculation.
Yeah.
Yet we could still say the behavior is problematic. So
especially when it's intentional. And that's really what I wanted to draw a highlight to. Because I think it's like you said, somebody's going out of their way to do this.
Yes.
This is not by accident.
Yes. Intentional harm, inflicting pain on someone's psyche or emotional self. I absolutely agree.
I mean, the same way I think women would label or define patriarchy, in the same way I think they would define chauvinism, I think emasculation comes from the same kind. It's in the same vein.
Yeah. Control, being diminutive so that I can feel better about myself or the scenario. I absolutely agree with you.
And like women who think men are the problem, I think a lot of that, it comes from that space. Because like you said, we can say, hey, man, when dudes do X, Y, Z, that's some raggedy ass behavior.
Yes.
But it's different from saying men are the problem.
Yes.
Like it's to the point now where it's that abort black boy babies, and we shouldn't be at that level.
Yes. I've seen that. There was a TikTok creator, I don't know if that person's still active, who was saying things of that nature. This is important to pull the car over for a second before we get back on the main road. Jay and I's mission with Save the Date is really to promote the humanity in dating.
Ethics.
And honor the natural human need for connection. And when we talk about connection, we talk about mutual needs being met. We talk about honoring someone's humanity. And honoring someone's humanity is accepting at times their triumphs and their flaws. Not abuse, their flaws. Because people struggle and are struggling through. And that is a process that you have to accept if you want to be with somebody and be with someone successfully. And that's important to say because what you just said and highlighted about behaviors and problematic behaviors and intentional harm, as I stated, because we ultimately are at the point where, like you said, we'll call out men's raggedy behaviors. And we have on this podcast. We'll continue to. But we also want to highlight the challenges and the raggedy behaviors that may be coming from women. And so that it's not always gender-coded men and women, but there are times we're just talking about raggedy behavior that can be exhibited in relationships. Raggedy behavior that is making it difficult for you to achieve the goal of feeling and being connected. And if we don't do this, then we are left back where we started. And we started, Jay and I, in the midst of the gender war. Men do this, women do that. Y'all ain't ish. Control, destroy.
Submission is marriage is hell. And it was like, wow.
Yeah. And out of all of that, this podcast emerged. Because we originally had a podcast with those who don't know about sex. And as much we love dialogue about sex, we saw a greater need to talk about connection. Because sex, an ecstatic, multi-orgasmic, over-the-top, traveling through dimensions sex comes best, in our opinion, and based on our discussions with people and based from our experiences from connection.
People are connected.
Yeah, connected sex is the best sex. So we said, let's go back and solve this problem of connection. So with that said, let's get back on the road and talk about emasculation, unless you want to say something about that.
Yeah, I did. I was going to say, listen, while we got the car parked, toking on his J a little bit, do you have any like specific stories of when you felt emasculated? Because I think that might help bring some clarity to listeners or viewers.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. Mm.
But when you're raising your voice, you are being error-centered. What I mean by error-centered, you're pointing out errors publicly. There's an audience that you're almost performing for.
As we used to say, airing out dirty laundry.
Airing out dirty laundry.
Mhm.
And then you're doing it to draw attention to what is happening and drawing attention to yourself and drawing attention to either my mistake or my errors in a way that allows you to seem as if you're grandstanding. And then I'm wondering, why are you grandstanding for in public? Why are you grandstanding for strangers? Why are you grandstanding at all?
Yeah, why you fronting
That's
me
my
like that?
interpretation.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's my interpretation. So some men deal with that because they grew up that way, or they have a different constitution than I do emotionally. It's not an issue for them. So I love your point. It may not be an issue, but I'm giving you one example of emasculation for me. When you are publicly in front of family, friends, or even strangers seeking to run someone down so that you feel better about a situation that you feel is out of control, then to me, that's an example of emasculation. And emasculation that, right, we talk about personal experiences. It's like, oh, okay, like this is what this is. This is what, this is about. In my opinion, spouses and significant others, boyfriends and girlfriends, even situationships, as we said on this podcast, should be about covering each other. Now, there are levels to that. In a situationship, you may not cover like a boyfriend and girlfriend. You may not cover like people engaged. You may not cover like spouses or long-term significant others or partners, but there is a covering that is there.
Mhm.
I'm not looking in public to diminish you. I'm
Mhm.
not telling stories to the homies at work, whether male or female, about how you do this or you do that, making you look like a jackass in front of people you don't know or people you may eventually meet, and they can snicker internally about the fact that I've painted you to be a jackass
Yeah.
in my private conversations when you weren't around. I want to protect the image of you so that if you meet these people or if you never meet them, there's always a good word about you traveling with you or traveling about you, even in circles you may never enter. Now, venting to a confidant is different, but we've all been in public scenarios at work and other spaces with the friends and maybe a couple of people, and then people will start talking about their spouses and their errors in a way that can be demoralizing for that person if they were listening in. Just like my particular person may not like me flirting. Now, my person's not there, so hey, I can flirt if I want to. But if you know they're not into flirting, why are you flirting?
Mhm.
If you know they have a problem with it. Now, some spouses don't. You flirt, whatever. As long as you ain't crossing a certain line, this is the line for me. You're going to have a little banter here and there. I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. But if that's not your spouse or your significant other, what are you doing? Now, this is cuts both ways. This is not gender coded to men at this point. I'm saying it cuts both ways. But that's my example of emasculation.
Yeah. Did you think the infamous red table talk, Will Smith was getting emasculated by Jada?
No.
You
It's
didn't?
funny. He didn't. Everyone said that he was. I didn't feel like he was being emasculated because he's choosing to be there. Now, some people may say, what's your definition of choice in a framework where we have a family business? And now I might have been high pressured into that because the brand is being dragged down. Investors may be pulling out or raising their eyebrows like, let me look at the morality clause of that contract and wait a minute, I'm high pressured now into this. I don't want to be at your red table talking about this. So he might have been high pressured, like, hey, look, it's here. So either you come on and either deal with it or it's going to get dealt with. Well, once you do that to me and you're my spouse, I expect that from the world. But once you do that to me and my spouse, I don't like that. Now you have to negotiate that because you're also business partners. So now that's a different bit of a negotiation, right? When Bernie Madoff committed all those crimes and the Ponzi scheme curtain came down and the emperor had no clothes, his children came in it. One boy hung himself, the other one died of cancer. A couple years later, family left in shambles. And apparently they never spoke to him after it was announced. They never spoke to him ever again. That's it. Cold cutoff, allegedly. I get where families come into these dynamics where then now you've put me in a situation that I didn't ask to be put in. So to go back to the Will Smith scenario in the infamous red table talk, he's being maybe high pressured into that. People said she made him look like a fool. I don't think she made him look like a fool. I think she probably wasn't ready to admit or deal with certain realities, i.e. the entanglements.
Oh, that's what she brought him on for, to talk about it all.
But she wasn't, obviously. I mean, to me, maybe if she was here, she said, no, I talked about it. I'm saying, because even that whole thing about entanglements, it was like a little weird spurter thing where she said, I've had some entanglement, or is an entanglement. It's like, no,
Yeah.
Now,
I got to water down the language so it don't look bad.
Yeah. Now, to my point, well, when you watering down,
you did it. Yeah. Like,
yeah,
what?
You had an affair.
And we had talks about it, so it didn't need to be watered down.
Yeah, I feel like they were cool. I think he was aware of it. It appears to me he understood it. He was okay with it. Maybe they had an
whatever
arrangement.
Degree he said he was okay. Yes.
And maybe they had an arrangement, or they seem like they've had some arrangement for years. What he may have been upset about is you messed up the money.
To me, that's the emasculation, is playing in my face about it. Like, if we've already talked about it, we've been grown, we did our due diligence. I told you can, allegedly, I told you can have this affair. If we've already talked about it, why did you need to call it an entanglement and act like I'm trapping you, or this was like a hit job on your podcast that you asked me to come on and talk about this stuff?
Yeah, well, I guess what people felt like she made him seem stupid because
to me, that's emasculation.
She was comfortably reimagining the narrative so that it wasn't on her, it was on him or them. And it's like, nah, homie.
Right. Because I said you can do X, but there's no reason why this boy should be going on a public platform and talking about what I gave him license to do with you and how he was falling in love with you. Like, that should have never been the case.
Yeah, your paperwork wasn't tight. I told you your paperwork. And
you
didn't get paperwork. You told me that there was no reason for paperwork, that he was just part of the family and it felt okay. And again, I don't know. But the emasculating factor is maybe now you're drawing down on all this wealth, this prestige and social status that I've given to this family. I've mainly contributed because I'm the biggest star. Let's just say that. Love Jada. I'm the biggest star. So now you've emasculating me and making me look like a fool because it's like, he can't even influence his own home.
Yeah.
Look at yourself.
That looks less than masculine to a lot of people. Men
he was
women.
Crying with the tears. I don't think it's so much he was crying. I think people were like, why are you crying over this girl? Or this woman, rather, excuse me. Why are you crying over this situation?
To me, it made sense.
No, it made sense to me, but I think that's also part of was like, they always got that face where he was tearing up.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like looking like this, and he's looking like he's tearing up.
Yeah.
And people just felt like, I didn't feel like he was emasculated.
Okay. No, I feel you. I did, but I can understand
I feel like he did worse with the slap. Because the slap was after that, correct? Yes, it was.
Yeah, way after.
Yeah, I feel like he did worse with the slap than he did with the emasculation. I feel like, if you're talking about making a fool or when but he doesn't obviously think he does. He's got it in a hip hop rap song. But
she didn't make a fool of him at the Oscars. He made a fool of himself.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if you think about that 18-month slide he had, I would say that's the bigger deal than that. By the time the slap came around, no one was really dealing with it anymore. Like anything else in the news cycles that we currently have. The way that media moves fast, he would have kept making movies and being big. It just would have been the funny memes that people put when grandma says she ain't doing the sweet potato pie on Thanksgiving and they put the Will Smith crying face.
I think it looked emasculating a little bit just from the standpoint that I just talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, I know one time for me, I was essentially part of a organization, small group, and there were a lot more women in leadership, and they had asked for everybody to give an opinion about something. Everybody stood up. All of the women who were there that day stood up, gave their thoughts on the question I was asked. So we were running up against time. I was to go last. So I get up to go. We get the time, and somebody was like, well, like, it's okay. Men don't really have much to add to the conversation in this regard anyway. That, to me, is emasculating.
Mm-hmm. That's
things
like a straight
that.
Out call out of your status that I was born this way. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
I can't,
can't do nothing about this.
Yeah. And I've been cultured a certain way and nurtured a certain way. And granted, I may not see things like you do because I'm not you and I don't have your lived experience. But you could have said, hey, guys, we don't have any more time. Can we just come back to you? You didn't have to in public then say my social status or one of the social
gender.
yeah, I occupy, I was born into, is the reason why you're not gonna allow me to comment.
It was a, and I mean, obviously it was a joke because it was just like, it was almost kind of like the end of class and your teacher's trying to tell you something extra, but nobody wants to stay.
Yeah, you packing up,
So it was like,
zoop,
all right,
zoop,
the
zoop.
meeting was over. It was they had to turn over the conference room. So it was like everybody was packing up to leave. And then the girl was finishing her statement and it was about to be me. And then this person was just like, in a joking way, it was just like, it doesn't matter. Like we didn't necessarily care what he had to say anyway, because men don't necessarily have anything of substance to add to these conversations. And I was like, one, we're at a professional setting. This is really bad to show that kind of face, show that kind of hand in a professional setting. But it's just like, even there's some truth to every joke. She really feels that way
Yeah, well, you know
to
this
some
person. I
degree.
don't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some
To
people
some
mean it and
degree.
they're joking. Some people mean it in truth and justice.
Because I've heard her say way more worse things about guys, just about
Well, that's what
men
I'm
in
saying. Yeah,
general.
you
So
know
that's
her.
why I was
Yeah,
just like,
yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, you know
I
it's not
know
a
it
joke.
was emasculating, even though you were joking. It was emasculating because you weren't really just harming me. If it could have been anybody, any man in that position would have felt the same way. Like, yo, you're really calling me out about. Because I mean, imagine if the shoe was on the other foot. I always say, I always talk about that dating experience I had when I went to this girl's house. Listen, man, it was during the pandemic, and she was like, yo, I want to see you, but I don't want to go out. We had talked on the app for like maybe like 5 days or whatever, like a whole week. And I was like, what are you talking about? You want to see me, but you don't want to go out. And she was like, well, listen, it was in the wintertime. I don't want to be out. I don't want to be like, it's cold. I don't want to be out. Can you just like come over? Like, you know what I do? I'm a chef. Like, she was just like, I'm working on this menu for this event. Why don't you just come over, be my taste tester? So I'm like, all right. So I go over there. Dinner was amazing. I didn't drink because I didn't see her make none of this stuff. I didn't want to get poisoned. So after dinner, we like sitting on the couch chilling. And she's like, yo, I'm just gonna go freshen up real quick. Yo, she goes to the bathroom, I swear, for what felt like 30 minutes, dog. And I'm hearing the water turning off and on, off and on, off and on. So she comes out the shower, bro, with nothing but panties on. And I'm like, what's happening here? And she's just like, yo, you should know what it is. Like, if a grown woman invites you over, you should just know what it is. And I just remember thinking, yo, if the shoe was on the other foot, you'd be calling 911. A dude is trying to rape me, or he's trying to force himself on. Like, if a dude said that to you, if I invite you over, you should just know what it is. It was kind of emasculating to be put in that position under the guise of like, we're just gonna meet and hang out and chill. It felt, because that's why I look at it as, if the shoe was on the other foot, somebody would be like, yo, that's the highest form of objectifying somebody, basically telling them they got to give it to you, or that you should just know what it is. I don't know. Felt a little emasculating to me.
Yeah, yeah. Rightfully so. And I understand that piece, especially what you said. If we have been drinking too, now we're engaging coitus or getting ready to, or do something physically intimate, and we really don't know each other. There's a lot of boundaries that have not been set and a lot of safety protocols that have not been initiated. What's happening here?
Right. You got to know that it was already kind of anxiety driven to be at somebody's house on just meeting. Like, you
Yeah,
got to
especially
know
during the
that
pandemics,
as
there was a
someone who
heightened. Yeah,
invited me, you got to know. Because if
yeah.
she was on the other foot and I was inviting you over, you'd probably be like, no, I'm not meeting you for the first time at your house.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing. You met for the first time. And so there's just things that, people some are comfortable with the run up and some people aren't. But you always have to err on the side of caution. The point about emasculation that really has been gripping me is women talking about emasculating in the context of talking to their lover or potential lover, their paramour, and realizing or saying that I'm hearing or saying that I'm emasculating him, or that women are emasculating. And women sometimes will say, well, what else do I have in my toolkit once things go wrong or go awry? Now, I'm going to give you my secondary definition of emasculation. When you're arguing with you have to realize, there are certain words you can say that you can't take back. You can't take them back. Take it from someone who's been there, done that.
Perfect time to give an example.
Some of it is too personal and too hurtful to repeat without someone else's consent about what I said. Not that I have a problem with what I said, but I have said some things. Oh, but I can give a context. I have regurgitated, restated, or made connections with information a person's given me, that might have been true, but the context in which it was brought up in, the tone in which the message was delivered, and the body language in which I had when I delivered it made that truth hurtful.
Mhm.
And not hurtful like, oh, you told me that, I've been working out for 5 days a week but I've been not eating right and sleeping, and maybe that's the reason why I'm not losing the fat that I want to lose.
Yeah.
It wasn't a factoid related to a process or a methodology for a particular goal. I drew connections between painful narratives, tidbits of information.
That had already been shared with you.
Yeah. If you watch the Sherlock Holmes character played by Benedict Cumberbatch that was on PBS, it was BBC, and they brought over the PBS. His version of Sherlock Holmes is known for just being a very connected, brilliant information savant, but he gives it in a way that's just cutting across all boundaries and social graces. So, Dr. Watson's there for the follow-up. And while that works in a professional setting, because sometimes people just want results and outcomes, in a personal setting, it can be very demoralizing. For you to make connections, which it's okay to make connections, and then state those connections at a point in an argument where it's a fevered pitch, emotions are on the line, and people are looking for validation and acceptance, as we mostly are in most cases when we're talking to people, and you come along with
Put
an
the
A-bomb
venom. Yeah.
of
Mhm.
invalidation.
Yeah.
That will not get you anywhere. Now, I respect the fact that there's women friends of mine who are in situations with men or have been in situations with men where, they push the issue and they push back. Hey, nothing wrong. You got to do what you got to do. You play that game however you need to play that game. I'm not in your relationship. I'm not in that home. I don't know who's right or who's wrong, and I'm not here to referee it. You have to do what you need to do to get to the end of the line. And I understand it. Trust me, I do. I personally don't see that as emasculation. I just see that as a motherfucking argument. You said some fuck shit, so I said some fuck shit. And all right, you felt emasculated, but how do you think I felt when you said X or Y?
Yeah. I thought you was talking about words like coming from a woman to a man, like calling you pussy or calling you
No,
a bitch.
no.
Not your personal examples, but I thought you were going to say there's certain words you can say it can't take back.
Well, yeah, but that's true. And I think some women may go there. You weren't being a man in that situation. Well, what do you know about being a man?
Mm-hmm.
This kind of performative standard of manliness that is hyper aggressive, but you don't want a man who's hyper aggressive because that creates problems, but you want him hyper aggressive when you want him to be hyper aggressive. You want to push those buttons and pull those levers.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this, and this is related to emasculation, but it's the opposite side. In my conversation with women, one of the things I have been stressing recently is, yes, the visualization is important, right? How you dress, how you look, how you smell, men love that stuff. Is your bedroom game tip-top shape? Men love that stuff. But if you really want to talk about what keeps a man around for the long term, it's how you make him feel. Maya Angelou had one of the greatest bars of the 20th century with that little phrase. People forget what you said, they forget what you did, but they never forget how you made them feel. I'm
Never
telling you guys,
forget.
that's the best piece of business advice in the history of business advice. I tell people that all the time. If you want to get into business, an entrepreneur, operations management, process improvement, study Maya Angelou's phrase, because it changes how successful you'll be in your business. But back to dating, it also changes how successful you'll be with a man.
Mm-hmm.
All the things I listed prior to that statement are true. Well, the visuals matter to an extent, and so does the bedroom game, and even the money may matter to some men. Some men don't care about money because they want to provide and they don't care about it. Some men do because they just see 50-50 and that's just what it is. It's not a big deal to them. They're not over moralizing the budget as some men do and some women do. But you speaking to the king in that man, the operator in that man, the maven, the intellectual genius in that man, whatever the brilliance that person or that man possesses, and speaking to it on a consistent, loving basis will ultimately increase the probability that that man will want to stay around longer.
Mm-hmm. Man, yeah. Dudes want to come home and smile.
So if you are in the business of being silent, weaponizing silence, or not being able to give those words, work on it. You're not a bad person. Just work on it. Work on it. But if you're in the habit of only speaking to him when he's wrong or offended you, understand you're starting to get into a slippery slope.
Mm-hmm. Creating a wedge.
Yes.
Creating
Just like
a
there's things he
wedge.
needs to know about you and how to interact with
And
you.
how to handle you, how to handle your heart, how to
Absolutely.
consider you and anticipate
Absolutely.
your needs. Yeah, there's things he's going to have to know about. Bro, this is how women think. Yeah, they like flowers. I know you're not a romantic person.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be running romance, but every now and again, bro, just pick up some
Pick up
flowers.
some flowers. That's it.
That's easy. Come on.
Yeah. It just
You got to
the
put
store.
gas in your car once, twice a week? Every time you go, just stop and get some flowers.
That's
Mad easy.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's a perfect example, Jay. That's a
Yeah.
perfect example.
No doubt. So it's things that both have to really know and gather that intel, that we do those recon missions on each other.
And I think if we're talking about emasculation, just to wrap this conversation up, if you're saying or doing things to intentionally harm a person, in this case, we're talking about men, the man you're with, you are increasing the likelihood of that man leaving or shutting down on you. I can't stress this enough. And every man's different. So if you're with a man or want to be with a man, study that man, because there are things that work for him that wouldn't work for me, and things that work for me that wouldn't work for him. It's not a one size fit all. You should be studying your partner. There are some general rules that you need to, follow, but study that partner and then meet them at their needs. Now, if you keep dating fools or people that turn out to be fools, then I would argue that maybe it's something you have to examine about yourself.
Choose better.
If you're dating men who, no matter what you do for them, won't do for you, bow out the game a little bit and figure some things out. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up your dreams of getting married and being with somebody or just having a partner. Don't give up. I'm saying assess. And you may need to assess alone or in community, but you may just need to take a break from dating, not give up on dating or give up on being happy in that context.
Or finding love. Because we really want y'all to be connected.
Yeah.
Even if it's, because I mean, listen, bro, I understand. I know how much we aspire to till death do us part. But guys, even if you get a good long 5-7 years with somebody, that's a great 5 to 7 years you can build. Hopefully it's longer, but we got to stop looking at things that don't end in marriage as failed
relationships
experiences or bad experiences.
I agree.
Because there's so much we can learn and skill up with in these relationships to prepare us for marriage. To your point, we're not going to treat our soon-to-be spouse like our ex significant other. We're going to study them and make it about them. There are some general things, like there's some transferable skills and information that we're going to bring over, but yes, we're going to make it about them.
And I think that's what we need to, we need.
Yeah, we kind of went around the world, but.
Yeah, I mean, I want to wrap this up because it's getting time, but we will have another topic, which is something Jamie's been exploring very in-depth, with a very in-depth exploration, which is sometimes people are being emasculating because they need to punish their partner. You deserve to be spoken to like this. And I'm going to tell you something right now, as Jay would say, and he'll say on a future podcast, you are in no position to determine what your partner deserves.
Whole nother episode. Can't wait to do that. On that note.
Guys, at Save the Date Now, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's been another episode. Until the next one, I'm Heath.
I'm Jamie. Y'all. Peace.
Take care.